GTC just ended. How has it been for you?
The most happening week of our life.
Being an NVIDIA insider, what was the one most exciting announcement from last year?
Blackwell is 40 times better than Hopper.
This is transformative. So how do companies evaluate ROI of something like Agentic?
The best way that an organization can look at its AI roadmap is to take the AI factory approach. Look at the AI factory as an enterprise asset.
So hi everyone, welcome to another episode of AI Adventures. Today we have a very exciting guest with us. We have Mr. Shridhar Garge, Head of Partnerships and Programs at NVIDIA. And we're very excited to have you here, Shridhar, today.
Hey, thanks so much Abhinav and Raghav for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you with such a nice subject around.
Yeah, and GTC just ended. It's so full of excitement. How has it been for you?
The most happening week of our life so far this year. I think the kind of announcements and the keynote and some of the breakthroughs that we spoke about have been very well taken, and customers want more. Customers want to know, hey, how is NVIDIA making their lives easy?
So Shridhar, for you, being an NVIDIA insider, what was the one most exciting announcement from last year?
Well, Blackwell is 40 times better than Hopper. I think that leap in
40x,
just
right?
one
40x.
generation is phenomenal.
Yeah,
And one exaflop, right?
Yeah.
The performance, a million trillion flops is what you read.
I think it takes a while for someone to comprehend what an exaflop is, but that's big. That's a big.
It's huge.
it just blows your mind. So Shridhar, obviously this GTC and the world we are in today, very exciting. But if we turn back the clock a couple of years to 2022, ChatGPT just launched. What do you think has been those pivotal moments in the GenAI journey till now? Where we have seen massive impact happening.
So I think ChatGPT did a great thing in getting AI mainstream. I mean, a layman out there, like let's say my 10-year-old daughter or my father who is about 80 now. I think even they are now able to touch and feel and see
They felt it.
what AI can do.
Yeah.
So it was a moment of amazement, I would say. And then from the amazement started this journey about, hey, how can we put this technology in action?
Correct.
Especially in a business that can yield us results, that can yield us benefits in terms of either a customer experience, competitive advantage with respect to what others are doing, or sheer efficiency booster. How can it get the productivity of my employees to the next level? And I think that is where this entire journey of generative AI into the enterprise started. Over the last couple of years, what we saw was people started experimenting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And they were, hey, I am the CMO and I want to use generative AI to improve my customer experiences. Hey, I am a CFO and I have a couple of these use cases that I want to get generative AI
Some
to solve.
Excel reports.
Some kind of analytics.
Correct.
Hey, I am a supply chain person and I want to see how I can optimize my supply chain and my inventory through generative AI.
True.
So there were these, I would say, siloed use cases that started getting built.
Emerging, yeah.
And the most, I would say, optimum way that enterprise saw in solving these challenges is to either hire a startup or a ISV for that point application and start doing it.
Correct.
Which was not wrong, because there was this new technology that was almost changing everything that you are doing till now.
True.
That you want to experiment and you don't want to get left out.
I don't want to bite on the
That FOMO was very real. Yeah.
FOMO was real.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to test and see how it can help their departments. So it was all great. But the advent of generative AI was so fast and the evolution was so fast. I think we are just talking about 2 years back. As in,
Very
it's
true,
not
yeah.
like
It seems like
10
ages
years.
ago.
It seems
like
decades.
that we are-
Yeah.
as in it looks like we are always living in the world of ChatGPT, but that's not the case. So what we have started seeing over the last 6 months or so is the challenge of shadow AI.
Yes, yeah. That's something. Can you tell our audience what it is shadow AI?
Yeah. So as I said, every department wanted to try their hand on this technology. They wanted to solve a particular business use case for their department, and this led to they directly engaging with these startups or ISVs on their
Or just using the consumer version, right?
the consumer version, and so on and so forth. Now, this was all happening in silos. So everybody wanted to do their own AI, right? But fast forward this by next 12 months, and what's going to happen is while today there are only 4 or 5 use cases in your environment, they are going to surge to 100 use cases. And suddenly, in the next 12 to 18 months, what you will have is about 100 odd applications thriving in your environment without any track of what data they are using, what cloud they are sending that data
What's
to,
getting trained.
what's getting trained, what's not getting trained. So it is going to pose a potential risk to the organization in terms of security, in terms of certain guardrails that need to be put in place while a particular app. Because see, AI is, or generative AI specifically, is not like an off-the-shelf application, which will just do what it is meant to do, right? Ultimately, it learns on your data.
Correct.
Ultimately, it's going to drive inferences on its own as the model gets mature, right? So, when you put these kind of applications, it is very important that you take an approach which is with a lot of guardrails and thinking from a futuristic perspective what it is going to touch and what it is not going to touch in the organization. And hence what we believe is, while what started off as, hey, I want to build this and experiment with this so that it can solve my problem, has to get structured, has to get into a framework.
Almost a governance layer, right?
Yes, a governance layer which can help the organization take all the goodness of generative AI but not expose it to the risks that it has.
No, but you're making a very valuable point, right? I think too many of them, organizations that try to perfect their built AIs and still like, okay, it's not yet ready. But their teams are using it, right? They're shadow AIs, they're going to ChatGPT, they're going to Claude, they're using other tools online, and all the company data is going. But everyone wants to perfect the inner one, the internal one.
I think enterprise surprise. And I keep meeting CIOs and CTOs very often, and I'm amazed at the pace at which the number of use cases that the organization is experimenting in is increasing. For example, the other day, the CIO said, hey, we have 21 different teams in the organization who are leveraging generative AI.
Wow.
Now the fact is, these 21 teams are doing it in their own silos. There is no collaboration between them. There is no centralization of resource.
No
and most importantly, there is no single person in the organization who has a view of all those 21 workloads.
What's happening,
what they are touching. And suddenly there are 7 different clouds.
Which and the token consumption.
Which are happening. So I think it's very important to have a view which is more central and something that you are able to govern as an organization in this thing. The other highlight that I have seen is the commoditization of tokens.
Right.
Sure. What started as a very rationing approach, that hey, I have only so much tokens created or rather bought, so you can only do so much. Now that's a very counterproductive approach.
Very true.
Because when you know that there is a resource which is going to give you a lot of benefit, order of magnitude benefit.
It is an ROI, right?
In terms of improving your efficiencies or your customer experiences, you can't be constraining your employees from using it.
True.
As in, it is like saying that, hey, you are my salesperson, but I want to touch only 100 customers.
True.
Why would you want to restrict your sales team from touching more customers?
I'm a bank, I'm only going to put X branches.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm a
beyond this, I don't have a budget.
So when you have a resource which is going to deliver so many benefits to you, you rather have abundance of that and let your employees and customers get benefited and try it out rather than putting gates on it. So that's the change that we are seeing now, where organizations are acknowledging the fact that this is a critical resource to the organization or the enterprise, and they are ready to give their employees the access to use it as much as they can.
It's kind of like that same commoditization, right? When people used to look, organizations used to look at people, right? They used to see them as a cost center.
Yeah.
But now organizations see people as their biggest asset that differentiates them from everyone.
Yeah, precisely.
And the same has to be with AI, right? And token consumption.
Precisely. And I think it's a collaborative effort between the CIO and the CTO of the organization.
True.
Because while the CTO looks at what use cases can get built and what all business workflows AI can touch and get benefited, the CIO at the end of the day is the key custodian of the AI infrastructure, who basically has a single pane view of where all AI is touching the organization, what kind of resources it is leveraging on, what kind of data it is trying to access, so that ultimately between the two of them they can give a view to the leadership or the CEO of the organization on how AI is proliferating in the organization.
And then now, GenAI was already exciting, and then Agentic has come.
Right? Yeah, Agentic is a different
word. And it reminds me of the days of the Matrix, Agent Smith and all that, right? And how do you think Agentic is going to play out in the next couple of months, right? Because a lot of talk in 24, they said 24 was the year of POCs in Agentic, 25 is the year where we were seeing RFPs, we were seeing on-ground action. Do you think this is now not a fad anymore and it's going to be there for a long time?
Absolutely. So Agentic, as a matter of fact, this year is going to be a year of Agentic AI for us. And it's very simple, right? Because as you see the benefits of a particular technology, you also want to leverage that technology to do more for you.
True.
Right? So as we graduated from the age of perceptive AI to generative AI and now to the Agentic AI, the sheer automation and the sheer work that AI can do for you as an employee or as an organization has grown multifold. So Agentic AI is about reasoning. Agentic AI is about the AI's ability to solve complex problems by breaking them down into smaller steps.
Correct.
And then it is like each step is then uploaded to a different agent.
A specialized
agent for that particular task.
Correct.
And then the key agent who is interacting with the user brings everything back together and delivers a task.
Right.
So I think the way I would like to put it is generative AI was about delivering you the ability to talk to your data.
Exactly.
And data doing
or world knowledge
or giving you the outcome. Agentic AI is going to be about delivering you a task. It is going to deliver you a task which is done by
an outcome.
An outcome of a task. Right? So that's the difference.
True.
Agentic AI was giving you an interaction.
Yes.
This is going to give you a task outcome.
So, and this is a question which I sometimes get asked. Is like, are we just AI washing RPA, right? Agentic AI. And some CIOs have asked me, even my RPA tool did that. But there's a massive difference, right?
Very big difference. The entire approach is different. See, the key difference here between the traditional technologies versus generative AI and agentic AI is here the model has its ability to get trained on itself. Right? It's like this. So there is a lot of talk about the scaling laws that happens.
Okay.
So there is a very simple way of me explaining scaling laws that, hey, look at a lawyer or a chartered accountant, right? First, the person goes to a college and gets trained. That's the first scaling law, right? Then that person does a few assignments and tasks where it gets more I would say refined at the skill that they are
attuned to the real world.
And then they go and start working for real clients. They start working for real situations, and then they learn a lot more. And if you see the leverage of the third learning is much higher than the first two.
Exponential.
Because they actually go into the field and learn. That's exactly how the 3 scaling laws are. So the test time scaling, which is the third scaling law that we are talking about now, it is about the AI going out there in the field, getting into real situations, touching real clients, and becoming better at the job it was supposed to do. So the self-learning, I would say, part of this technology
Correct.
is very different versus what the traditional AI was.
And the outcome, right? Because these are outcome driven, right?
Exactly.
Whereas in the earlier it was task, like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do.
And you knew what is the scope of that. You
Correct.
knew what exactly it was going to deliver.
True.
Here it is going to amaze you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's what generative
Amaze
AI
you,
is.
right?
It's going to amaze you.
Yeah, right, very true. And then when we come to the ROI side of this, I think one is the traditional software ROI, right? I implement this, so much hours of saving, so much. But this needs a very different ROI perspective, don't you think? Like, I think when we implement agents in a company, you're not going to look at it from a one and done approach, right? This is transformative. So how do companies evaluate ROI of something like agentic?
Very, I would say that's a very pertinent question.
Yeah.
And we encounter this all the time.
Yeah.
And because that's the most important question that an Indian customer would generally ask you, right? Hey, what is the ROI of this investment? The way we are looking at this question is, see, AI is not a discretionary purchase that you are doing like, hey, I'm buying 100 laptops and you tell me how it is going to work and stuff like that. It's a very strategic investment and an approach that you are taking. And what we are suggesting our customers is to take the AI factory approach. And that's what we call as the best way that an organization can look at its AI roadmap. What AI factory does for you is three things. The first thing that it does for you is it removes the problem of shadow AI that I highlighted. It brings a lot of structure. It brings a lot of, I would say, governance in the way AI is touching different departments and functions in the organization. The second thing that the AI does is gives you the best of breed stack in terms of what is available to you. For example, the same grade or the same quality of stack that a large hyperscaler would have, right, is available to you as an organization. Right, without the kind of investments that the hyperscalers are doing on it,
and without the concern of how many tokens, because it's all
on your this thing. And the third thing that AI Factory is doing for you is it is commoditizing the availability of AI or the accessibility of AI for you as an organization.
True.
Because when I say AI Factory, a lot of people think about, hey, maybe they are talking about 100,000 GPUs and tens of thousands of racks and so on and so forth.
Millions of dollars.
And that's not the case. If an organization wants to start the journey, they can really start with a very small, relatively small, I would say, setup, and then modularly expand as their workloads expand. The idea here is about having the reference architecture or the vision of an AI factory in place as you start off, rather than you letting AI proliferate in your environment, you getting dependent on all the ISPs and everybody who is operating, and then you're looking at consolidating, because that becomes very difficult.
Very painful to do.
It's very painful, right?
Painful and expensive.
So what we are suggesting is organizations can start off with the end in mind. They can future-proof their AI roadmap in a way that it can scale as their workload scales. Now, coming back to your ROI question here, this, when you are taking a factory approach, it is not like buying something and then putting it in your environment, right? It is a journey.
True.
So you and that's what Jensen referred to during the GTC keynote, that is the precise reason why we declare our roadmaps years in advance. Because we want our customers to plan their AI factory build out in a way that suits them. Right? So that's a very important element, that you do not look it like a transaction that hey, I put $100 here and I have to get $500 out. It's a capex investment. It has to be looked upon as a strategic investment at the leadership level, so that you can benefit from this technology, which is going to change the way we do business.
So you're almost saying, and very interesting, you're saying move it from the P&L to the balance sheet, right? Make it an asset. For all the CAs.
It is actually used a great word.
Yeah.
We are telling organizations that they should look at the AI factory as an enterprise asset, and not an expense.
Not the one
And
expense.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the moment I say enterprise asset, I'm talking about an asset that benefits all the functions within the organization.
True. Yeah.
Like for example, in the earlier era, when you would, as an organization, you would go and implement an ERP system.
True.
You don't say that, hey, I'm implementing ERP for my finance team.
True.
Or
Yeah.
I'm implementing ERP for my operations team. You are implementing an ERP.
Right.
It is an enterprise asset,
Correct.
which every department in the organization is going to benefit with.
True.
In the same way, we are recommending that organizations look at implementing AI factories.
True, okay.
Now, these AI factories could be on the cloud, they could be in their own data centers, whatever is
Hybrids.
amenable and
Yeah.
whatever is the organization's philosophy.
Yeah.
But essentially, what we are saying is organizations need to take control of their AI roadmap.
Yeah.
True.
They can't be outsourcing it to someone who is dictating terms
Correct.
for them. They have to take control of their AI roadmap and their AI strategy.
True.
Yeah.
So that tomorrow,
Yeah.
when it scales in the organization,
True.
Yeah.
they don't have to look here and there for the risk that it poses.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And in that very vein, right, one of the biggest challenges most organizations, CIOs, CTOs always face is that I've set up the AI factory infrastructure now. Should I get in an outside vendor or outside ISVs to help build my use cases, the platforms, get everything up and running to deliver value? Should I have my in-house teams do it? Because there are a lot of open source libraries out there right now, right?
Yeah.
So a big challenge they face is this tug of war between the internal teams saying we can do it as well, and we can pick up a bunch of open source libraries like a Crew or a LangGraph, or should we get these, there are plethora of vendors out there, should we get a vendor in? So how do you see that landscape?
I think there is no right or wrong here, but think about it from this perspective. The landscape is changing so fast. Right, we just spoke about ChatGPT. It's like just 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when the landscape is changing so fast, our recommendation to the enterprises is you better have an expert besides you who will think with you at the center of the entire solution. Right?
Who has exposure.
Who has exposure. Now, what we have tried to enable as part of our ecosystem is AI service providers like Fluid AI, who understand the AI factory framework, who understand the stack, like the NIMs and the entire SDKs and libraries that we
Now
have
Dynamo
all
is
open
there.
source.
Yeah.
Now Dynamo,
Yeah.
we can talk about it later. But so these AI service providers are essentially enabled to support the customer's requirement because they not only understand the stack completely, they also have experience in working with multiple customers.
True.
Right? So they have solved these issues, they have encountered these issues. So rather than the organization completely depending on their internal teams and going through the trial and error again,
Correct.
I think they should have an expert on their side and then let the internal teams pick up things.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm not averse to the internal teams working besides the experts, but completely depending on internal teams sometimes might lead to either a very high time to market or a lot of resource going into failing and then learning and
almost reinventing the wheel.
reinventing the wheel. When you have someone who has dealt with the situations earlier, it is better to leverage, and that's where the concept of AI service providers comes in, because we recognize that it is very difficult for an enterprise organization who is in the business of banking, who is in the business of manufacturing something, or who is in the business of healthcare and so on and so forth, to have all the skills internally to build this out. And hence, the AI service provider ecosystem helps them go faster and get their AI up and running.
Got it.
Very true.
Yeah, I think the space is so new, right? You rarely see some company going like, I'll build my own CRM or I'll build my own ERP from scratch.
And it's new and it is accelerating at a very high pace. So both these things are important to consider.
Very true. And then when you look at it from a perspective of the CIO making that statement to the CEO or the CTO taking to the CEO that this is the investment, right? And then the aspect out here, right? This is transformational. You're looking at AI from 5 use cases to 100 to 200. So how does a CIO or a CTO have that conversation with his leadership, with his board or with the CEO telling them that this has to be done, because the investments are significant, but it's also transformation. So it's no longer a X and 2X kind of return, right? What does that conversation look like?
So I would like whether it is CIO, CTO or CEO to first understand the impact that this technology has, and I have a very simple way of explaining it, especially from an Agentic AI perspective, that if you go 20-25 years back, when email was emerging as a new tool of communication, okay, I remember in my early days in the career, a team used to have a single email.
And marketing
and they would marketing at the organization domain, right? And the team would communicate to other team by using that email, right? But very soon we had an email which was personal, as in it was my organization's email, but it was my own email, right? And that journey happened, and think about it, if today you would be communicating within the organization using functional or departmental email IDs, as in think about how the communication in the organization would have become. It would have been heavily bureaucratic or heavily chaotic, right? There would have been no accountability, as in it would have been chaos, right? But what happened is, very soon we migrated to individual emails. So every employee having their own email ID just became a reality. In the exact same way, we will see AI. So while today a marketing agent or a sales agent or a finance agent is being spoken about, I don't think we are far off from an era where every employee will have a digital counterpart. So like you have an email, you will have an agent.
Okay. This is your agent.
And my agent will communicate with your agent. And a lot of tasks will get done right there. So as two individuals or two colleagues working in the environment, we may not have to communicate on a lot of tasks that we have to do today when we have our digital counterparts talking to each other. And I think the organization has to be ready for this reality. What I'm talking about is not like imagination.
It's very doable.
It is happening and it is doable. That every employee has a digital counterpart. And like Jensen says, that the new IT department is going to become the HR department for agents. So the way you onboard a new employee, you train the new employee. You basically give access to the new employee on what he or she can access and what he or she cannot access. And then you ultimately put the new employee into the job, what he or she has been hired to do. Exact same process will get followed for digital employees or agents, where the IT department nurtures the agent, trains the agent on board, puts guardrails around what they can do, what they cannot do, and then ultimately put them to job. So and that is where again I'm coming back to the AI factory approach. When you are looking at this as a vision or this as a reality, that every employee would have either one or multiple agents which he or she is working with, you have to spin out AI at a fast pace. It's not one POC at a time. It's not like, hey, I have this application and this application, I'm going to
do one and then see after 6 months what happens.
Here you are hiring employees every day. So you have to churn out AI agents every day. You will have business workflows that will come up every day. Right? So you have to have your own setup that is able to take you to this reality. Right, and that is where a factory approach becomes very, very critical. You cannot take it one POC at a time kind of approach.
No, but you're very right. Like imagine an email is coming in to the salesperson asking, the status of an invoice. His agent could forward, his or her agent could forward it to the finance. That finance person's agent could look up the system automatically, and then the whole transaction or response is just handled without needing to talk to each other.
There is a lot of work about work. That can get outsourced to the agents.
Absolutely. And then who do you think falls in the center of this transformation, right? Because you have multiple stakeholders in the organization. You have the CEO, obviously, who's leading the ship. You have the CIO, who's in charge of everything back of house. You have the CTO, who's leading everything front of house. Digital transformation head. So how do you see this AI factory initiative? What are the key stakeholders you see driving a lot of this initiative?
So the best thing is to start this from the CEO's desk. the leadership intent, the leadership vision, and the leadership's will to make this happen is going to transform the organization at the fastest pace. And they are going to be able to leverage the power of this technology at the best scale possible. Now, I understand that not every CIO will be as hands-on with technology or especially AI, and that is where the CIO and the CTO together have to play that role where they become the champions of change.
Got you.
Right? They become the champions of change within the organization.
Okay.
Where the CIO is the custodian for the infrastructure and the governance, and the CTO is in charge of how this technology can transform business processes within the organization. So it is very important that this trio works together and gets the organization where it needs to get to.
No, I think that's very important. And when you talked about it, the digital agent, right? And GTC saw a lot of physical AI also.
Oh yeah.
So do you think physical agents also, maybe not now, but a couple of years down the line, I have a digital agent, and then folks on the factory shop floor, etc., they have their physical agents, or everyone has this team almost.
Yeah. So physical AI is the next frontier that we are working on, and this GTC was like a lot of physical AI. We announced a lot of open source libraries on physical AI. So we as an organization believe that the same framework that helped us get generative AI and agentic AI to make it a reality framework will help us on the physical AI as well. So think about it. I'll just give an example. Now, what is the change when we move from agentic AI to physical AI? So here in agentic AI, you are exchanging data tokens.
Yeah.
Right? You are sending text, video, an action, as in
calling
some
APIs,
kind of assignment,
API
calling
calls,
APIs and all that, right? In the same way, in the physical AI world, you will be exchanging action tokens. Right?
Okay.
You will tell the robo AI, the AI robo, to do something like, hey, go and pick up that bag for me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, when this action token goes to the physical AI, the AI within has to know about two things. The first thing is everything about the environment and the language and what do I mean when I say stuff and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But it should also know a lot of things about the situational awareness of the environment that the robo is working in. Right?
Chair in front.
How far is the chair? What is to be picked up?
Obstacles in the road.
Right. And that is where a lot of knowledge about physics, gravity, impermanence, inertia, those concepts have to be taught
to the action model.
To the action model. So what we are creating is something called the World Foundational Model, which basically has all the inputs about physics, about the situational awareness that I spoke about and stuff like that, on which this AI gets trained on, and then it is ready to take action tokens. Right? So this will be at a computing scale level, it will be a different level of computing that it will take, and we are ready for it. But even at the learning level or the training level, it's going to be a different scale of learning that needs to happen. But as I said, the framework, like for example, today I have a framework of a LLM. Here I am talking about the framework of a World Foundational Model. Right? So the framework is going to be the same. It's just that it is going to adapt. The same framework is going to get adapted to the next concept, which is the physical AI. And as you said, that's what we imagine as the future of work. So the future of work will be about 3 different types of employees that our organization has. The first employees are like you and me. With flesh and blood.
Who sleep 8 hours.
Sleep for 6-8 hours and all that. The second is our digital counterparts, which are the digital agents, who will do a lot of work for us. And the third is a humanoid, who is going to take those action tokens and take those tasks and do it in physical environments for us. And for physical AI, our Cosmos platform and our Omnios platform are going to collaborate and make this happen. So the way we see physical AI is a 3-computer challenge, or rather a 3-computer solution. Just to simplify things for you. So we know about the 2 computers out of it. The first computer is where the robot or the AI gets trained, which is there. And the second computer is the deployment computer which resides within the robot. It could be a car, it could be a humanoid, it could be whatever.
Physically in the place where they
These 2 computers are known. But to make these 2 function together, we will need a third computer, which is like a digital twin, which is where the robot will practice what it has learned. In real environment.
That's its training universe. Because you can't train in the real world.
Exactly. You can't, because that's a very expensive way of training.
And risky.
So you will need a simulation world like a digital twin, and that will be the third computer, which will act like a bridge between the first 2. And the good part is we are taking very progressive steps towards it, and we might see physical AI becoming a reality before we anticipate it.
Wow. So just like we had the chat GPT movement, there's going to be a physical AI movement.
We look forward to that, and I'm hoping that would transform a lot of workplaces, especially in the manufacturing, warehouse, and those kind of large environments.
True, because if you look at it, right, till now, GenAI has largely been a services play. Banking, healthcare, these are the sectors.
It's a data exchange, right?
Yeah, but manufacturing is sort of coming up, and we discussed briefly on that it's figuring it out. But I think physical is when they will sort of really go deep into this.
Yes. And the entire capability of the robot to self-learn will differentiate itself from the traditional robotics that we have seen.
So coming back to one conceptual way, which is the LLM, right? Till now the reasoning and the knowledge has been together, right? But now they're saying reasoning only models could be interesting, right? Do you think we are at the cusp of that? That changes a lot of things again, because inference cost goes down. Those models are just reasoning based and they're working with the enterprise information. Do you think that's going to be a big change or not that?
No. So we are looking at inferencing to be one of the biggest workloads. And in fact, you spoke about Dynamo, right? So Dynamo that we launched at GTC is our platform or a toolkit to basically get your inferencing most optimally done and reduce the amount of costs that you would incur, because the
cross your GPU cluster.
Exactly. So we believe that reasoning is going to be the future, and it is going to take a lot more computation, but we are all geared up towards basically provisioning that without going into a different level of costing. And that's where I said that Blackwell being 40 times better than Hopper signifies that because in one generation change, we are able to optimize
40
so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that gives, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, this is a resource in the hands of developers, right? And we look forward to the developers to surprise us, right? For example, when 3G came and we were all on 2G as internet, we felt that 3G is like God's gift to us, right?
True, correct.
But then soon 4G and 5G came, and then nobody wants to work on 3G anymore.
People complain of 5G speeds.
Exactly. But what has happened, while it's about the speed, but what has happened in parallel is as the speed of internet and as the cost of internet decreased in order of magnitude, it gave us a lot of applications. Can you imagine a life without YouTube today?
The data flow just went
right?
through the roof.
This would not have been possible in the 3G and the 2G world, right? So as the resource availability and the cost goes down, the developers in the world will surprise us with new applications.
Use cases explode.
And the use cases that can come up around it. And I think that's what we look forward to, and that's what keeps our life exciting.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're very right, As these reasoning models take a lot more tokens during inference, because they're thinking very intelligently of the next output. So suddenly you will need systems like Dynamo that can send you the right GPU at the right time, ensuring that if there's a cache available,
it can optimize that.
Right? And Jensen talked about this, right? At GTC, he mentioned that VMware used to be the data center,
The operating system
of the data center, right? Because you used to have a little VMs,
And now
everything
it
would
is
run off it. And now it's like a AI factory of GPUs, and Dynamo will be that layer that you can that does all the routing.
All the
decision
inferencing
making.
workloads are like
Just sent to Dynamo.
orchestrated with Dynamo, and then it will give you the most optimal way of doing it.
And it's fully open source. Right?
It is.
It's amazing to see.
Yeah, we want developers to use it. Use it at scale.
Yeah. So Blackwell NVLink 72 now has 130 trillion transistors in it. It does about 2259 CPU cores, right? Grace cores within it. And like you said, right, 40 times the performance of an AI factory on Hopper. Also 13% cost, like it's almost just 0.13 times the cost per flop.
Yes.
Right? Your total cost of ownership per flop
gone down,
right, has gone down massively. And now Vera Rubin is the next generation after Blackwell.
Yeah.
So just tell us a bit more about what you're seeing that flow look like.
No, so that's what our entire, I would say, intent and vision is to bring down the cost of intelligence for our customers. And the unit of intelligence today is tokens, right? So, as the inferencing cost comes down, the technology will be used at large, and with every new architecture that we are bringing in, we are trying to get an order of magnitude improvement. So whether it is Vera Rubin or the next generation, and as I said, the entire intent behind announcing our roadmap in advance is so that you can plan your factory. Right? It is not about buying these 4 GPUs or a 4 GPU system today and then forgetting about it. When you are working with a factory kind of an approach, you know that while you are buying this today, you will have a better technology to buy tomorrow.
Got it.
And your approach or the framework that you are approaching it with is completely compatible with the earlier investment that you have made, so that it can seamlessly scale.
Right.
You don't have to repurpose your resource just because there is a new thing that came into the market.
And you sort of know that where costs are heading, where capabilities are heading.
Exactly.
So maybe today you have to spend X, but tomorrow you're going to spend X upon 40, right?
Yeah, could be. But then your demand is going to go up so much.
Exponentially.
Exponentially. And that's what Jensen showcased at GTC. That while Blackwell maybe 40 times faster, but the overall consumption of Blackwell is much higher.
Correct.
Today, in the first year, compared to the peak year of Hopper. Right? So the need for computing itself is growing so exponentially that this kind of a performance increase is triggering more and more demand.
And a lot of users, I think this is for a lot of the business folks, right? They spend a lot of time trying to understand this whole. So there's FP16, which is what Hopper was optimized. Now FP8.
And then FP4.
Rubin will be FP floating point 4. And then you talk about floating point operations, right? If you could decipher this for the users a bit, what's a flop and why is FP8 such a big game?
It's about the memory that because of the precision factor, it's about the memory that it consumes. And so if you can do the same task at a lower precision point required from an AI perspective, because remember the genesis of this FP32, FP16, FP8 was from a traditional high performance computing environment where when you are simulating a weather environment or you are doing some scientific computing, you would require those kind of
32 decimal places, right?
And stuff like that. The whether AI applications would require those kind of precisions is a question, right? So that is where if you reduce that memory requirement, you can do more number of transactions or more number of tokens in the same amount of computing power rather than using the entire thing, and that's where it plays so much role in how it affects the number of tokens that it can generate per GPU.
One thing is when the LLM world, right? DeepSeek came a few months ago and it was the biggest thing. Do we see more LLMs or do we now see that we're sort of stabilizing? We'll obviously have a few more come through, or do we see a proliferation or another 10x growth in this? in the sheer number of LLMs?
I would say DeepSeek was a very good thing that happened because most of the enterprises, and that's what I see when I meet customers in India especially, believed that building an LLM is the domain of few companies in the world, the top 8-10 companies in the world. That's not something that we should be even thinking about or investing in. But with DeepSeek, what happened is it democratized the thought process of building LLMs. So what we see is actually we will see a lot more enterprises building LLMs which are specific to their domains or their own requirements, because it has brought down that notion that hey, if it is about building LLMs, it is only with the top 4 or 5 organizations in the world. Rest of them should not try it. So we see it will actually result in a lot more people trying building their own LLMs. And we are already seeing that. So post DeepSeek in the last 3 months or so, we are already seeing that trend where more and more developers and researchers and organizations are talking about, hey, can we build an LLM? Because if it can get built at a fraction of a cost, why don't we try it ourselves?
And are you seeing language as a big play, right? I know now we have, like in our own sense, we've done, these implementations with Kuwaiti Arabic or Polish and, Indian languages, like obviously Hindi and all, but the more specialized ones, right? India has like a plethora of languages. How are you seeing that play? Because there's still this difference, right? Where the reasoning models are all reasoning in English, but there are this new host of models that can at least do the first level non-agentic interaction in a local language. You seeing any trends over there when it comes to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the same trend that we saw in the traditional LLM space, where first it was about English, and even the Indian languages were actually first getting translated into English. Then the tokens used to learn, output tokens used to be in English, and then so it was more machine translation happening as a covering layer.
Correct.
And then we had models which were natively doing Indic languages.
Correct.
Right. And then they ended up consuming much lesser tokens as compared to the traditional ones who would first do everything in English and then just apply machine translation. So we see the same trend will come in the reasoning space as well, in the agentic AI space as well, because of the sheer cost of tokens going down drastically. Because now it will be much more affordable as compared to 2 years back to build something which is more native.
That makes sense. And then when you look at voice as well, right? So one is language and the second is voice. Voice to voice, right? I think is going to be very exciting from a consumer experience point of view, right? So what trends are you seeing in that sort of field? Because customer experience is definitely one of the top use cases, and voice AI is also having its moment in the sun right now. Do you think that's going to be like what's going to happen there?
So we are already seeing as part of our Inception program, which is by the way our startup incubation program, NVIDIA startup. We have more than 2,000 AI startups in the program from India today. So there are a few startups that I know of who are looking at solving the voice-to-voice problem, and I think the results and the benchmarks that they are showing is pretty encouraging. So we will see that coming up.
And in terms of when you look at the GPU architecture itself, do you see some massive changes in terms of what is the next level? Do we move? Will this remain consistent, or do you see more happening?
Oh, I think we'll leave that to Jensen to announce the next GTC.
True.
I think whatever we have announced at GTC is itself a phenomenal thing, and people are still digesting it. Let's get people to absorb that, and then we'll wait for the next ones.
It's just a year away, and in NVIDIA, a year is a lot of time.
This year we had the highest ever participation from India at GTC. It was a phenomenal conference, and like I was telling you some time back, it is a conference like no other in terms of the way it is done. more than NVIDIA's conference, GTC has become the melting pot for the world's AI ecosystem, right? The kind of startups who showcase their products and solutions, the kind of infrastructure companies who are exhibiting there, the sessions, the thought leaders who are taking sessions, customers who are presenting how they have used a generative AI, agentic AI and stuff like that. It is a confluence of the entire ecosystem, and I can easily say that it is the world's biggest AI conference that happens.
Right.
So
like a Woodstock for AI.
This year, so last year's GTC was the Woodstock for AI.
Okay.
This year's GTC to be the Super Bowl of of AI.
All right.
And Jensen even made a statement that if we were to make GTC any bigger than what it happened this year, we would have to make the city of San Jose bigger.
Nice.
Because the entire city was like
GTC.
in the GTC frame of mind.
Nice.
So it is, and I would like urge all your viewers, if they get to be at GTC next year, they should plan for it, and it is worth every dollar that they will spend in being there.
Awesome. No, we definitely, I think we would encourage everyone. GTC is the place to be. If you couldn't make it this year, next year, definitely we should.
And by the way, all the GTC sessions are available virtually, and we continue to keep them on for a pretty long time, even after the GTC. So those of you who missed for this year, please register yourself on the GTC website, become a virtual attendee, and you will get access to all the sessions that happened. There is an excellent catalog that you can sift through. You can filter things out and then choose the best of the sessions that you want to see. So don't miss out on, just because you could not be there physically, don't miss out on the virtual participation and looking through the sessions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have a look at this one. It looks very exciting.
So thank you, Shridhar. It was amazing talk today.
Great.
And, some of the work you guys are doing and you are doing here, I think it's amazing. I think we meet you in 6 months and there'll be so much more to discuss. With NVIDIA, always, it's fantastic.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I think it's always a pleasure to speak to customers and to folks in the same ecosystem, because there is so much to exchange, there is so much to learn. So I had a fun time, and I hope your viewers will appreciate this session, and I look forward to talking to them again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you all.